Well, it's time to rebuild my secondary computer again. The only thing I'm changing is the case itself. Oh yeah, and I'm also changing out the motherboard. Here I got a very nice gigabyte board. I forget what it actually is. Give me a second to grab the box. It's this particular motherboard right here. And since it's a Z series, if I ever come across like 11th or 10th gen processor that can do overclocking or like a higher end processor, this motherboard here will be able to more properly utilize it. With that said, it still has the i5 10400 I currently have in the secondary rig. It's now on the computer here. I'm still using the same 32 gigs of RAM, and I'm still using my RTX 2080 Super. For the power supply, I'm using a Lineally 750 watt SFX power supply. I'm going to be using one 140 mil fan, and I'm going to be using one 128 mil fan. But the way I have this planned out is I'm going to have the 140 right here, and I'm going to have the well actually no, I'm going to have the 140 right here where the CPU and main GPU are located, because, well, that's where everything is. The 120 is going to be right here where the power supply is, and yeah, I'm going to be using my Q58 again. I really don't want to use this because I still have bad memories of this, but that was because it was an AMD system inside this thing previously, but it's now an Intel build, so I'm going to give this case one more shot. With that said, I may just end up rebuying this case again, but with the Gen 4 ribbon. That way, so if I actually get myself a 11th gen processor for this motherboard, I'll be able to utilize Gen 4 speeds with my RTX 4080. Actually, no, the RTX 4080 does not support Gen 4. I need to rephrase that. If I get a new processor, it supports Gen 4, and I get a RTX 30 class card for this computer. I'm not getting a AMD card because, again, I ain't touching AMD in never. I'm not really going to record the whole build process because I'm not really confident right now to do that because I've been trying to mess with this thing for a while now, 2 days now, and I just feel like building everything off camera. I just want to record what I actually ended up coming with, and apparently I didn't need two tissue boxes, but whatever. Alright, it's back together again. Let's see if it fires up. Alright, got some RGB right there, so it looks like that's automatically powered. The 140 in the back is not powered, or it is powered up, but the RGB is RGBing. So it looks like everything is firing up as it should. Alright, installing some more drivers again, go figure, because I swapped stuff around. Alright. Let's launch the Aorus stuff so I can see what the fans are doing. I need to calibrate. Since I'm using a low profile cooler and whatnot, I gotta calibrate all the fans. So yeah, I'm gonna let all that do its thing. And then I get to figure out which fan goes to what. Alright, so fan calibration is done. If I wired everything up as it should, system fan 1 should be the 140 in the very, very back. So what I'm going to do to test that is I'm just going to go yeet with the fan here, the fan curve, so I can actually see if that's the case. I actually can't tell because it's so quiet. Let me see if I can full send. Full send. Pile of crap. Okay, so it looks like the 140 is the first fan, which means I could actually dump that to like a constant 50. Alright, I'm going full send the one in the back. Nothing. Alright, everything fired up as it should, and so far I'm not having any issues. With that said, I did modify the fan curve slightly. One thing I do want to note is that I did try to make system fan 1 being the 140 and system fan 2 being the 120, but turns out the 120, or the system fan 1 is the 120 and system fan 3 is the 140. Either way, I figured it out and I bumped where I want them to be, so it is making a little bit more noise than I would like. This one right here, which is the 120, is over the power supply, like I said, and the 140 is again over the CPU and the main core of the GPU. That's why that one's running a lot more faster than the one for the power supply. So with that said, next thing I want to do is see what the temperatures are like. So I'm going to run this old tech demo for a little while and see what the temperatures are like. Now, prior to doing all this, the GPU would idle about, or not idle, the GPU would be running at like 180 or so in the old HP workstation case compared to what I'm using right now, which is what I don't know yet. And the processor was around like in the 130s or so. So with that said, I'm going to be interested in seeing what these temperatures are right now. I did do a video, or I did record I did do a recording, but everything just went out of whack and I just had to delete everything. So that's why you're seeing the video I'm uploading right now. But I'll let this tech demo run for like an hour or so and just see what the overall temperatures are like. Now, I do have a 2080 Super, as you saw, and you're probably wondering, why am I not using the ray tracing tech demo? Well, 1, it's Star Wars. 2, it's Star Wars. And 3, fuck Star Wars. I want something attractive to look at. And even though this is an old tech demo, this old tech demo still pushes these cards and it still holds up very well to this day. With that said, here are what the temperatures are currently like, and they're climbing as expected. The one thing I'm really interested in though is the CPU temperatures. I kind of have an idea of what the GPU is going to run at, but I want to see what the temperatures of the CPU are going to be like. So I'll just let this run again for like about an hour or so. It kind of seems like the temperatures on the GPU are holding, but let's hold for a second and see what happens. Because it stayed at 160/162 for a little while, which is usually a sign that it might actually be stabilizing. Reason why I say this is because there was a case I did originally try using. I tried using my Fractal Torrent Nano. Reason why I ended up having to ditch it. The main fan I bought the case for decided to break on me when I was trying to clean it. The plastic kind of got really brittle on me real quick, and I actually haven't used this case that much. Well, this thing probably only maybe had 3 months of runtime, and the fan has just been sitting ever since, and the plastic's kind of cheap, to be quite honest. Or I just got ungodly lucky. So, that kind of sucks, but whatever. I saw, oh, yep, it is still climbing slowly. Now, when it comes to that Fractal Torrent, whatever it's called, the temperatures were around 179 when I was all said and done on the initial test run. And the temperatures on the CPU never reached 100. Now, obviously, I'm using a small rinky-dinky cooler, so obviously the temperatures are going to be significantly higher. But generally speaking, that little itty-bitty cooler is actually holding the temperatures down real nicely, and I'm actually impressed. For the cooler, I was using this guy right here. And for those that don't know, the i5 10400 is only like a 65 watt chip. So this cooler was complete overkill for it. And it's honestly impressive seeing the ID cooling little itty-bitty rinky-dinky cooler actually holding everything in check, which is quite impressive. But yeah. Also, I do want to state that it is a little annoying that the RGB stuff is currently being on the deep cool fan. and I really don't have a way to control it, because if I do plug it into the board, the RGB doesn't really work right. So yeah, it's a little annoying, but since it's literally underneath here and whatnot, the only time I'm really going to notice it is whenever I'm gaming at night or having this thing on at night. And plus, the RGB though, at the very least, is nice and slow, so it's not that atrocious unicorn vomit that the majority of PC gamers out there actually do. Though I much prefer it to be set to white, but like I said, the RGB in my Gigabyte board for the deep cool fans, they don't really play nice, unfortunately. And the reason why I don't have the Thermaltake plugged in is because the RGB for that is proprietary, and I don't really feel like going in there and custom cutting it and whatnot right now, because I've been working on this thing for 2 days now, and I just want the damn thing to work. Alright, some time has passed and temperatures have gone a little higher up, but everything's still within check. I would personally like to see my 2080 running at 150, but I know it's a 2080 and I know that's not really possible, but at least it's staying under 170. But that said, it may still go to 170, but as long as it doesn't go to 180, I'm going to be happy. But like I said, I'll just let it sit for a little while longer. If anything, I'm actually just going to let this sit for like a good couple hours, just to really hit this computer and make sure everything's nice and stable. But yeah. Also, I might as well show the time. It is currently 5:15 p.m. Yes, I'm using a Zune to keep my time. With that said, I'll come back at like what, 7, 8, maybe 9, and we'll see what the temperatures are like and if the computer is still functioning. Because what I want to do is I want to do a proper, I just want to let it sit for a while. I don't want to game on it. I just want to have this benchmark run, or not benchmark, this old tech demo run for a long amount of time. Because like I said, I want something attractive to look at, and fuck Star Wars. And I just want to make sure that everything's nice and stable, which is something I really couldn't have done with my AMD rig, but fuck AMD. So I'll just come back in a couple hours. Thought I'll quickly stop by since it is now 6 p.m. Temperatures are more or less the same. The CPU has maybe gone up maybe a few degrees, but the GPU temperatures are pretty much consistent. So I think I'm happy with the temperatures, and I'm actually happy with the case. Again, that's because the case wasn't the issue. It was the AMD setup that was in the case that was the issue. So yeah. I'm still going to let this run for a while, but it's actually kicking off a lot of heat. This little EB thing is kicking off heat. I mean, my 4080 kicks off heat when I'm playing like CCs and whatnot, but this thing is kicking off its own heat. It's a literal foot heater at this point. Thank God I have a window unit. Also, it's like 100 degrees outside, so I'm actually going to do something a little bit different since I have a normalized temperature. I'm actually going to kick on my AC unit and see how much the AC unit manages to cool down these temperatures. Because this AC unit's a complete overkill for my small ass room here. So it should be more than enough to cool my room down and actually theoretically help with temperatures on this. Of course, when it's winter time, I'm not going to be using this AC unit. I'm going to be using that computer and my 4080 to keep my room cool. Sorry, I meant to say keep my room nice and hot. Jeez. Alright, so it's been a little while. Let's see how long it's actually been. It's been about an hour, give or take. Yeah, temperatures have actually gone down a few degrees on the GPU, and the CPU has seemed to have gone down a little bit also. Not as low as I thought it would have gone, but it's still definitely an improvement, even though it's only by 2 degrees. But with that said, this AC unit is meant to actually cool my whole room down. It's not really meant for my desktop, but it is nice to see that it will it will impact the temperatures and decrease them by a little bit. But yeah, so far the computer is still working completely fine. I haven't had any blue screens or anything like that. It's just working as it should. Again, this is more of just a stress test just to make sure the thing's stable. Now, I guess if I really, truly want to stress test this thing, I can do the fuzzy donut and Cinebench, I believe is what it's called. but I don't really want to hit this thing that hard. I just want to hit hard enough where it comes to like a gaming load. And technically this tech demo is a gaming load. Alright, so the computer is on, but the screen is blank. More than likely what happened is it went to sleep. Or not went to sleep, but it turned its display off. And yep, that's exactly what happened because I have it set to 3 hours of inactivity, even though technically I am doing something. The screen will turn off after 3 hours, and I think we're good to go. And temperatures are relatively in check still. And of course, that's with the AC unit still on. But yeah, I think it's safe to say my secondary rig is more or less back together again. And at the very least, isn't completely killing itself in temperature when it comes to the GPU and whatnot. Having that GPU running at 170 to nearly 180 was something I did not like in the the HP I was using for the case and whatnot. So just start using this thing as a normal computer for a while. Alright, I decided to play a little bit of Sea of Thieves, and I saw the temperatures go to 169, which is interesting. Which kind of, well, actually, yeah, because I'm getting higher frame rate with Sea of Thieves. Of course, this is 1440p max settings compared to the new Dawn demo, which, like I said before, is still a very demanding tech demo. But with that said, it seems so kind of stabilized. One thing I do want to note is the heat output from this thing is crazy. I can feel it right over here where I'm actually gaming. I made this little custom thing that I need to replace because it's kind of getting a little yellow from body and whatnot. But yeah, this thing is really pumping out some heat. One thing I do remember about how I originally had this case set up is I had a little plate with two 92 mil fans that have a little physical on-off switch. That way so I can turn them on and off. And it'll be to eject all this heat into the actual room and whatnot to help keep this thing cooler. But with that said, oh, there we go. There's the temperature spike I was talking about. So I'm kind of happy I did decide to do a little bit of gaming instead of just running the old New Dawn demo, because it may be an old demo, but it's not like a full-on game like Sea of Thieves is. So I'm just going to continue playing Sea of Thieves and see as the temperature goes higher or lower. My phone's about to die, so I gotta also put that on charge. Alright, just got done sneaking a hacker brig. One of them was very blatantly cheating, but they got they got killed, and I saw the temperatures go to nearly 170 degrees Fahrenheit, but it's at 169, and well, it's hanging out just fine. Obviously, I would like it to run a little cooler, but again, I'm running at what, 122 FPS? And I think it's safe to say that this computer is more or less ready to roll. I mean, it's been ready to roll, but I wanted to make sure it's not going to give me any issues. So I think that's, I don't know for certain if I'm going to be still doing any more video, but I'll see what happens. I'm going to add one more piece to the video. I decided to go through with adding the 120mm fans in the front like I was talking about. Now I also made it to where I can easily remove them by these two screws right there, and by that little disconnect little piece right there. That way, so if I need to pull the computer out for whatever reason, I can easily do that, push it back together, reconnect the cable, re-screw the fans in, and everything's back to normal. With that said, what I'm currently doing right now is I'm rerunning the new Dawn demo to make sure the new fan curve I set up is actually working properly. Currently right now everything's still heat soaking, so the fans right here aren't really spinning up as high as I would like. But as everything starts heating up, it should eventually start shooting up and actually kicking up the fans and whatnot. But for right now, I want to try them at 10. Well, actually, no, I'm going to do the proactive thing, and I'm just going to set them already to 20% because they're still quiet. They're not pushing much air, and that's completely fine. So setting them to 20% should provide just a little bit more airflow. And I can already feel it putting out heat, though not that much right now because, again, everything's still heat soaking. But yeah. I'll just have to, again, let it sit for like an hour or so and just make sure everything heat soaks. I'm also going to completely exit out of the Dawn demo, relaunch it again in full screen, and just, again, let it sit for a while. Alright, it's been a while, and now I'm seeing temperatures of 171. And the fans right here, they really are not moving. So I need to go and see what everything's idling at. If I can get it to properly respond. Alright, so it looks like I'm just at the mark of where I said to start climbing. So I'm going to actually do this. And then I'm going to do this. And I wanted to start kicking in at 50%. Well, actually, yeah. Since it looks like everything is more or less capped, I kind of want it to be running at, let's say 70%. And bring everything down to here, which is 40 or so. Hit apply. All right, now these two fans are blowing out air, and the temperatures are going to probably be more or less the same. I'm probably just going to dump these all to just 30%. Unfortunately, when it comes to something like this, it's pretty I'll just do it like that. And now I just gotta see the temperatures decrease. But yeah, actually probably need to go and make it to where it actually bumps even higher than that. Be nice if I can get it to actually just go full. Whatever. Well, at least it is. At least they are now blowing out air, which is what I want them to do. Though this one here is blowing more air or more hot air than this one right here, which is actually pretty interesting. But yeah, temperatures are going to kind of just be doing temperatures, and I'm just going to reset the thing so it's in full screen again. Temperatures will slowly go back down as expected, but eventually it will kick back in, so I'll just let it run again. Alright, it's been a little while, and temperatures have definitely gone down a little bit on the GPU. Not as far as I would like, but it's still definitely gone down. It's not near 170 like it was. So these fans here are in fact doing the job and recirculating air and pushing out all the majority of hot air into the room and letting cool air come in and through here and whatnot. So it is nice to see this does work. Though I think for winter time, I'm probably actually going to physically disconnect these fans that way, so I can actually have like heat coming through everything else, or just coming through and whatnot, because in winter time right here it gets real cold for my feet. But yeah. So next thing I want to see is, do these fans actually spool down when the temperatures decrease? That's the one thing I want to see. If I set everything correctly, they should spool down to maybe 50 to 40%, which would still provide air, but I don't want to provide too much cooling, because again, if these are spinning too fast, it will be a little annoying, so I do have more fan curbing. But generally speaking, everything seems to be doing fine, but I'll just wait for this to do its thing. Alright, a bit more time has passed, and the idle temperatures for those fans in the front are doing exactly what I want them to do. They're idling significantly slow, which is what I want, because when I'm idling and whatnot, these fans don't need spin up that high. But when I'm gaming, obviously they do need spin up. So it's nice to see, even though the fan curves are very tight, it actually works the way I want it to work. I would like these fans to go 100%, but that's way too much of a tight that I don't really think I can do. And plus, honestly, I like, what, 70 odd percent? They're blowing more than enough air to help circulate airflow and whatnot to get all the hot crap out and supposedly cool air in. Alright, I decided to load up Sea of Thieves yet again, and currently these are the temperatures. I've been playing now for maybe 5-10 minutes. The fans right here are definitely spooling up as it should, so they are doing the job. So I'm just going to place these for a little while and come back and see what the temperatures are like. And of course, as I'm testing my computer out, a Florida Fortune pops. So with that said, it's about more or less the same, give or take. So temperatures seem to more or less be the same. Now I don't know about the core clocks and whatnot because I don't actually normally monitor those. I tend to normally monitor temperature, the utilization and whatnot. But yeah, also I'm in hell right now, so I'm just going to scuttle and hope to God I get out of hell so I can be a little closer to the Florida Fortune. With that said, I already have my Florida Fortune boat thingy, but still. It seems like these fans are in fact doing their job. At least I still feel hot air coming out. So even though the temperatures more or less seem exactly the same, I do know that at the very least hot air is getting ejected out and cool air is supposedly being fed to the actual components compared to everything just cycling and whatnot like I originally had it. So I think that's pretty much it for this video.